You asked the question that they said there are different type of measuring tape. So this one I was opportune to stumble on this one. It's not common though. It's not common. This is mostly when you order tapes online, especially when it has to do with Chinese company, they have their own different measurements. You have the UK measurements. Majorly, basically, we use the UK measurements, and you will use the US. US and UK, they are the same thing. They use the same measuring tape, but you may not know. So one thing you should first of all try to avoid is using using a different tape to measure and using a different tape to cut. If you use the Chinese tape to take measurements and you use the normal regular tape in Nigeria to sew the clothes, to cut the clothes, you have successfully damaged the clothes. Wow. Just why I asked you to remove the edge because of that shape usually dents. So look at one. Look at where one is. Look at the normal tape. Look at the measurements.
Wow.
Are you seeing the difference?
This one is higher.
See.
This one is lower.
C2. Are you seeing it? It's not equal.
It's not.
So if I buy this one to measure you and I just want to cut the cloths,
it's rubbish.
So it simply means that if I use this one to cut the clothes, to be too big.
Yes.
Do you understand? So if I use it to measure, I should ensure that I use this one to cut the clothes. Do you get it? So check it out with your tape. Check it with your tape and see. So you know the kind of tape that you have.
Sure.
Far apart. Check it with your tape. Now check this one with your tape. They're the same thing. Check this out. So it doesn't matter the size. No, you have a it's different. You know, you have a big tape. Yeah. Me, I have a tiny tape.
Yes.
The same measurements. So it's not about the size of the tape.
It's not about
so it can be big and it can be wider. But then the inches have to be the same. It has to, be equal. First thing, as someone who wants to learn how to sew, sewing, you may see sewing as something that is difficult. Sewing is one of the easiest things that anybody can learn. So that is why an illiterate can be a very good designer, because sewing is something that requires passion. Even if someone has not been to any school, you can sew. Now, the difference between an educated person and an uneducated person is the fact that we can put terms to certain actions, to certain practices. Sewing, there are calculations in sewing. Calculations that when you're taught properly, you don't need to understand further maths before you can. Most times you see those days what they do is just like they said, divide the bus. They say the bus is 10, and you, because you're very smart, you've gone to school, you know that if I'm dividing it by 4, 2.5. If I'm dividing 10 by 4 is 2.5. So, but then they won't think. For someone who is uneducated, they won't think. What they will just do, they just look at, okay, so if they were dividing by 4, they just carry the edge, put it at 10. So you're not thinking. So you have, like this, you divided it into 2. So to divide it into 4, you bring it to this place again. They're not even thinking if it's 5 or, I don't know if you understand.
Yeah.
Where that curve is, it shows that, okay, this is 10.
10.
Yeah, so divided it into 2, so bend the tape again to 5. And they know this is where it is.
They don't know whether it's 2.5.
They don't know if it's got 2.5. I don't know if you understand. Yeah, so that's your advantage. And also, another advantage that you have is that you can sketch. When it comes to sketching, it means the image you have in your mind, you can bring it to life. Not just bringing it in fabric, but then you can picture it. And another thing, as someone who wants to sew, you have to learn concentration. High level of concentration. If you do not concentrate when you are sewing, you will keep losing. When I mean losing, you will keep losing. In fact, you end up spoiling the fabric. Because by the time you cut sleeve, you may mistake sleeve for shorts. You may mistake sleeve for pockets. Because there's similarity.
Really?
There's similarity. So you may think sleeve is pocket if you are not paying attention. And especially when you're doing a bespoke. So bespoke is working with precise measurements, majorly all these clothes that are very curvy, that has to bring out the person's actual structure. I don't know if you understand. So if you're working with if you're doing such kind of production, what will happen is this side and this side, they are the same. This side is different from this side. Mm-hmm. So you may end up, and then the facing too. When we'll talk about facing has to do with back and front. Yeah, the back and the front. So I'm just trying to break it down in a very simple way so that now first I will do it back and front. You may end up putting the back on the front, or putting the front in the back. And if you're a very lazy person, especially for some fabric that the back and front are not so visible. For example, now that fabric, the back and front you may not know. But for a fashion designer who has learnt it over time, you will know that there's back and front. The client may not know. So, but then if you don't have concentration, when you're sewing it, you may mistake the front or the back.
Sure.
You may mistake it. So concentration is highly required. First thing is your passion. Second thing is concentration. So I don't just look at fashion as something that is hard. It's not hard. See, every cloth is pieces. Every cloth, every single cloth you see on this planet, no matter how fine it is pieces. Like, they are pieces. If you want to wear full cloth, tie wrapper. Move with concentration. While you're removing it, you are studying it. And then you know where this particular piece is supposed to be. And then you can bring them back together and join them together. So what I will encourage you, once in a while, once you start your practice, once in a while, get this tokumbo fairly useless. Lose them, scatter them. Just get the one that is very affordable. Just scatter it. So it helps you gain an insight. That's when you discover some secrets. I don't know if you understand. Not every secret you will find in the classroom. Some you find it by yourself, find it outside. Someone that have eye for fashion, you don't see people normally. You will not see them normally. It's their clothes you are looking at. Sure. You're looking at how this did that. I was at a wedding on Saturday. My eye was on the bride clothes. Like, what the hell? How can somebody do zip like this now? Why is this? Why is that? Yeah. It's subconscious. So if you are not like that, it means you don't have interest in it. Sewing is time consuming. It is time consuming, and that can be frustrating. I want to show you some of the things that are very important when it comes to fashion, that are very important. The first thing you need is your tape.
Okay.
First thing you need is your measuring tape. Make sure you have the accurate measuring tape. So if you can try to have the variety, but make sure you have your own accurate one to always check. You need your pair of scissors, fabric scissors. There is fabric scissors, there is paper scissors. So I will advise you get a paper scissors and so get another scissors. So majorly, any scissors that you use in cutting cloths, don't use it to cut paper. You have your chalk. Your chalk is very important. HB pencil, please. HB pencil, because this one has a very good length. Eraser, wherever you have pencil, you should have eraser, because sometimes mistakes are inevitable. Thread, paper tape, pin. You need pin. If you're working on red fabric, don't use red pin, because it will sink in. So it's easier for you to see that there is pin there. If you are working on red fabric and you use yellow, I don't know if you understand. So these colors, they matter. So don't use same color for the pin, for pinning. So you will not end up forgetting pin in client's fabric, in client's outfit when it's done. So that is to avoid unnecessary accidents. And then your sewing needles, your hand stitching needles. So we have Timbo. So you wear it on your finger. It's an iron stuff. So you buy it's on different size. So you buy your finger size. So you wear it on your finger. So you have the reeler. This is a reeler. It is called bobbin. But then our local markets may not, if you say you want to buy bobbin, some may know, some may not know. So generally, to avoid extra charge, I say bobbin, you want to buy bobbin, say so I don't go school finish. Bobbin that's supposed to be 100 naira, they may end up selling it to you for 500 naira. And of course, say it's bobbin, you're not buying reeler now. They say this one is bobbin. They'll not tell you this one is bobbin, this one is reeler. Maybe it's bobbin you want to buy. So it's called bobbin. We have shuttle, your reeler, and this is your shuttle. They are very different. Then we have tracing wheel. So this is a tracing wheel. So if you want to trace the same mark from one, transfer a particular mark from one particular line from one paper, it usually works better on paper. Some fabric, I don't think it shows so much on some fabrics or paper. So yeah, for your pattern, when you're creating your pattern, yeah. So you just need to trace the same line to avoid error. Is to trace the same, so you can just double your pattern and trace the line out after you have sketched it out. And this is a fabric ripper. So to lose your fabric, this is a fabric ripper. Sewing lines. So we have different type of sewing lines. We have straight lines. We have curved lines, zigzag. A running line is still a straight line. So we also have a blasting. Blasting are temporary lines. For example, if you want to do your gathers, you want to draw your gathers with your hand, you do blasting. Blasting, they are not lines that are meant to stay on the clothes. They are not the line you were sewing. You are temporary. So you are doing it in such a way that it's easy for you to rip. Now, so a hair stitch in the layman's term to tie. So when you're sewing, you don't tie with your hand. You tie with the machine. So that is stitch. So you're stitching, when it says stitch it, so you're going back and front. You're going back and front. Any question? No question. Okay, so guys, if you have any question, drop your question in the comments. Stay with us in the class and you would have a lot to be thankful for.